3, 2, 1. And here we are. Yes, we are live. Al, do you have me live? Because Carolyn can't find me live on YouTube.
You are live.
Good. All right, then. So I'm going to just keep talking, and I'm going to just think you're all there and you're all listening. So good morning, everybody. Yes, joining me this morning, as always, is my spirit guide, Gregor, who is standing to my right side. To my far right, we have Carolyn. Carolyn, say good morning.
Good morning, Carolyn.
And then we have Cachorro in the middle of us, and we don't know what's happening with the computers, and things are going a bit crazy. So so we have Cachorro in the middle of us, who's just stretched out and sound asleep. And of course we have Al. Say good morning, Al.
Good morning, everyone.
So so I was going to start this I can't remember now how we were going to start this morning.
A healing story.
Okay, so last week, you can hear Carolyn calling up from over the other side of the room there. So last week, we had Mitchell joining us from Canada. From Australia. Sorry, Mitchell. And he asked, can you tell us a healing story? And off the top of my head, I couldn't think of one. But then afterwards, I started to think that, you know, I have so many. Why couldn't I possibly think of one? So I thought I'd tell you a little story this morning to begin the show. And that little story is about a young man, a patient of mine. His name is Chris. And I'm not going to give you his last name, but I do know it. So for Chris's family, if you're listening or happen to catch this, I just want you to know I've not forgotten Chris, because Chris was very special to me for the time that I knew him. I met Chris when I was in Hong Kong, and you know, Hong Kong, I don't know if any of you have ever been to Hong Kong, but if you can imagine the busiest market day ever anywhere, and then the triple it or treble it or whatever, that is the city of Hong Kong, filled to the gills with people, and especially in the markets and shopping and so on. But it's a very, very fascinating place to go. So Chris had got in touch with me because he had an issue with he had tumors that just kept popping up all the time in his lungs and in his chest area. And the doctors didn't seem to know what to do, and there didn't seem to be a cure, and so on and so forth. So he became my patient, and we got to know each other quite well over the few short weeks that I was there with him. And one time he took me to see this wonderful, wonderful Chinese man who must have been well into his 90s. He was teeny little thing, very old and wrinkled, and he ran a clinic. And so we went to this place, and it was sort of downtown in the Chinese district. The clinic was sort of a bit of a rough building, and I was amazed when I walked in. The waiting room was filled to capacity. And so Chris had gotten to know this guy, so he'd made an arrangement for me to see him. So I walked into his room. He's wearing a white coat and no stethoscope, I have to tell you. And he was sitting cross-legged on the most rickety little stool you could possibly imagine. And as I say, it was very tiny, but he sat on this stool, back straight, and, you know, looked at me. And what he did was, he used to look at his patients, and he sort of look at them, and look at you in your eyes, and he'd, you know, look at your face, and he would stare at you for a while, and sort of probably getting the feel of you and connecting with your energy or whatever it was. And I remember we sat there sort of staring each other in the eyes, because I was doing the same thing. I was scanning him in the same way that he was scanning me. And at some point, after about 10 minutes of sort of giving each other the eye, we both started laughing, and he couldn't speak a word of English, and I only spoke a little Chinese, or Cantonese as it was. And but we had a communication that went beyond everything. So we left this guy, we left the clinic, and then I was going to give Chris some healing. So he said, well, where would you like to go? And we were on this really, really busy street, traffic and people everywhere. And I spotted this cafe across the street. It was a sort of a bit. You had to be very brave to go into this place because it wasn't especially clean. But hey, it was we're in China. What do you want? So I said, well, how about let's go over there? And he looked at me and he said, but and the front of the place was up. There was no front. They just had one of these roll up fronts. So everything was exposed to the street and the traffic and the noise and so on. So I said, well, let's go in there. And he looked at me and he said, well, how are we going to do it in there? It's not quiet in there. And I said, we don't need quiet, Chris. We're going to be fine. And he looked at me like I had two heads. So we walk into this place and we go halfway to the back. We find a small table that we can sit at and we order a drink. And then I said to Chris, okay, now I'm going to give you some healing. Well, you could hear the traffic blaring. You could hear all sorts of, that everything was blaring away. And you could see Chris thinking to himself, how is this going to work? So I said, I'm just going to put my hands on you and trust me. And he's had healing from me before. I said, just let go and let God. And that's what we're going to do. And within less than a minute, he was out for the count and he was sort of nicely, doing his thing and what have you. And I'm doing my thing with my hands on his shoulders and I'm connecting with that God force and we're doing our thing. It was only when I looked up at one point and I saw all these people in this cafe, little cafe, they were all looking at me like, what is she doing? They were very curious, you could see. And at some point they started to come a little closer, very quietly and very respectfully. They came closer because they wanted to see what I was doing. So I gave Chris his healing and finally he sort of came around for about 10 minutes. He came around and he opened his eyes and he saw all these people looking at us. And I asked him if he was okay. And he said, I never thought we could do this, but that was amazing. He felt really great. And then, but he said, but why are all these people looking at us? I said, oh, well, I think they know what we're doing, Chris. And I think they're just wanting to participate to help us. And a lot of these people smiled at us and they nodded at us and they waved to us. And because nobody spoke English, I didn't speak Chinese, but it was amazing. And it taught Chris, which I already knew. I just wanted to say to all of you out there who have healing or need healing, don't worry too much about the environment because healing can happen anywhere, anytime, any place. You do not have to have, a dark room. You don't have to have quiet. You don't have, if you have a good healer who can basically knock you out or give you enough energy that it sort of makes you relax or helps you to relax, not necessarily knock you out, but helps you relax. You can literally give healing to someone in the subway if it's necessary. And so I'll always remember that place. What I remember most of all, though, is first of all, Chris, and his surprise at having sort of, gone off and done his thing when he didn't think he would be able to. And all of those lovely people in that little cafe who were all there, fascinated by what we were doing, but very, very accepting of what we were doing also. And we know that, that people in the Middle East and the Far East, we know that people there have a much better sense than perhaps we do in our Western world. They have a much better sense of all of that good stuff. So that's my story. Al, do you want to say anything about that? Have you ever given healing to anybody in a weird place?
No, the only time that we had lots going on was, it wasn't crazy, but we had a lot of people coming in on the mountain in Vermont. And, for me, like I had first started healing at that time, and it felt a little bit strange because you had kind of, maybe it was 5 or 10 people around me doing healing at the same time. And once
the patients, not all of them with you, but with other
people. with other healers and other patients. Yeah. Exactly. It took effort at the beginning for me to really just calm my mind. And it was a really, really good practice to calm my mind and calm myself so that I can just kind of, you know, be that vessel for God's energy. And eventually I got it. It was a challenge at first, though. But
yeah. Well, we used to, for those of you not quite sure what Ali's talking about, we used to, we owned a farm which was given to me by a wonderful lady. When I say given to me, it cost me an absolute fortune, but that's a whole other story. But it was a beautiful farm way up in the mountains in Vermont, and the views were startlingly brilliant, weren't they, Al? I mean, just unbelievable. We used to have one weekend every year, which was when, you know, the leaves were turning and it was fall foliage, and it was the first weekend of October, and we'd have a 3 or 4 day weekend, and people would come for healing. We always give healing for free. If anybody's thinking, you know, about healing or wanting healing, I, as a healer, do not charge for healing, just so as you know. And so we would have people come, and they would come in droves. And it was a nice fine day. We would put chairs out on the lawns high up in the mountains, and people could just look across for miles and miles and miles. Everywhere you look, there were mountains and beautiful trees and gorgeous fall foliage and so on. And we'd put chairs outside, and then we'd have a team of healers who were working, and that's what you're talking about, right, Al? There were several patients having healing at the same time, and several healers working with them. And you might say it could have been a little bit distracting, but actually it worked well, don't you think, Al? It really actually worked very well, you know, eventually. It did. Once you got used to it.
Yes, yes. And you ended up kind of feeding off of the energy around you too. As you got, yeah.
Also the energy of the place, itself, right? It was a beautiful spot. All right, let's Carolyn, are you back online?
Yes.
Are you back here?
Yeah, it was there.
Who joined us?
Okay.
Which one?
KW.
Oh, right. Hi, darling. Hi, KW. Talking about healing, and of course,
yes.
Kay is in England, but she came every fall to Vermont to participate. So, what does Kay want to say?
She says, "Remind Rosemary that we have given healing in a broom cupboard."
We did. Oh my goodness, that's a long time ago. I wish we got Kay on here. It's true, Kay, that many years ago in England. We had 2 or 3 healing centers going, and there was one particular healing center, and I can't remember now how we got in the broom cupboard, but we ended up giving a patient healing in the broom cupboard. And just for the record, Kay is an amazing healer, taught by me, but amazing, gentle, loving, caring, not taught by me, just something that comes from within her, but she's lovely. All right.
Chris also has something to add about this.
Chris
Benevento.
Okay, Chris is. All the healers are coming out of the woodwork. Look, I'm glad I told this story. Good morning, darling Paul. I'm coming to England, so I'm going to put my hands on you, just so you know.
Chris says it was amazing to be giving healing to so many, one after another, and working as a team in a circle, both in Manchester and Ira, Vermont.
She's talking about the Vermont, right? The healing weekend. Yeah. And what does Paul have to say? Paul, our lovely Paul is not doing very well. We did get your emails, Paul, and sending healing, but I am coming to England. I don't know if Carolyn let you know yet, but I'm coming to England. I'm going to put my hands on you. Get ready.
He hasn't said anything other than good morning, everyone.
Okay. All right. So.
Excellent. He says. He says excellent.
All right. So, Al, do we have any questions? Let's go to questions.
Azul has a question.
Good morning, Azul.
His daughter keeps talking about doing, and I'm not sure if you know what this is. I didn't. Ayahuasca for soul healing.
This is the word.
Ayahuasca, and I looked it up. It looks like.
How are you spelling that then?
Ayahuasca.
Never heard of it.
Okay.
That doesn't then, you know, I don't know everything. So,
right.
Yeah, it's a new one for me. So what is the question then?
It seems like it's a psychoactive brew to kind of enhance
A what?
like a brew, like a hallucinogenic kind of thing. So he's asked, his daughter wants to do
Like
it.
a tea or something?
What's that?
A
Yeah,
tea?
it looks like some kind of. I'm looking at just a picture of it. It looks like a milky brew of some kind with
Okay.
that's made from a root of a certain vine. So his daughter keeps talking about doing this, and he just wanted to know if you had any experience, if it's
I
safe,
don't.
etc.
Well, I don't. I know nothing about it, but before you even take one sip of this stuff, you need to do your homework. So I would Google it, and if you can, try and find other people who've tried it or other people who know what it does. I can't give you any opinion, I'm afraid, except before you put anything in your body at all, and this is for all of you listening, and for me too. Before you put anything at all in your body, think twice. Actually, think 3 times, because your body is, this is all you've got. This is it. And when this body is, worn out, or if you damage it in any way by, taking anything that is harmful to it, then, the consequences are yours to bear, because you were the one who just took something without thinking first about what you were doing. I actually have to tell you that, having said that, I went out last night and I ate 2 pieces, small pieces, but 2 thin pieces of a pizza crust. I don't eat pizza, but I was so hungry and it was the only thing there, so I ate it. But I don't like to eat stuff that is not good for you. Occasionally I do, but think twice before you, especially something like this, think twice before you try it. The thing is also, and I can speak from experience here. People will tell you that spinach is good for you, broccoli is good for you, all that good stuff is good for you, nuts and berries are really good for you, all that, right? Everybody says that those are the things that are good for you. But from experience, I can tell you that they are not good for me. They are deadly for me. Broccoli particularly, spinach, berries, any dark berries, nuts, all that kind of, and I love this stuff. I love it. But it's really bad for me. So every individual has their own response to any food. So even though somebody might say this is the really healthiest thing for you, if somebody said to me, I made you a really healthy spinach salad, Rosemary, I might as well put poison in my mouth, because that's what it does for me. Weird. It's a little thing called oxalates. So it pays you to pay attention to your body. It pays you to pay attention what is good for you and what is not good for you. It pays you to just be aware of those things. So I'm not recommending anything. I know nothing about it, but what I do recommend is that you find somebody who knows something about it. Carolyn, shall we have a question?
Luciana asks.
Good morning, Luciana.
When are you coming in England, Rosemary, and where? Is it for pleasure?
Well, this is a big announcement here. We can say it now because my passport finally came through. So actually, I can say in 3 weeks' time, I'm going to Italy. I'm going to be around the Florence area, and I won't be doing any workshops, unfortunately, but if anybody would like to organize or arrange workshops, I'm always open to any suggestions of any kind. And then I'm going to England, possibly France just for a couple of days, possibly not. But we'll have to wait and see about that. But certainly I'll be in England for a couple of weeks. I'm so excited because it's been 6 years. Can you believe I used to go twice a year to England and to see all my friends and all the rest of it. And it's been 6 years. So I've got a lot of catching up to do. I'm very excited. I've got all sorts of things organized, and so you know, that's my bit of news. Right, Al, question.
So Sharon asks,
Good morning, Sharon.
my late husband's estranged sister passed recently. Are they reunited on the other side? Grudges set aside.
I'm actually, I was going to say I'm not sure, I don't know, because there are no guarantees with this, but actually, as I'm talking to you, Gregor has put his hand on my shoulder and he tells me to tell you that all is well. The grudges that you're talking about, I mean, they were old. You know, some of them seemingly new, but stemming from old grudges from the past. I feel that I feel that according to Gregor, all is well. So try if you can not to worry too much. And, you know, if you say a prayer for them, I'm sure they'll hear you. And if you just let them know what it is that you want for them, because I'm sure that you want for them to be reunited. And Grail has put his hand on my shoulder, and I can tell you that from what he tells me, that they are definitely reunited. I'm actually catching a glimpse of actually a few people here connected to this issue, not just one or two. I actually think, from what I'm understanding, this, whatever this grudge or these grudges were, extended beyond your brother and sister. They extended to other members of the family, maybe even in some way caused by other members of the family. And so I can tell you, I'd love to hear your reply on this, if you understand me at least. But I feel that it's more than the brother and sister thing. I think it's a family thing going on. And I think, you know, I'm seeing quite a few people here, quite a crowd of people here coming through to talk to me about this, because apparently I was not expecting to do this today. And I always say to people, I'm not going to talk to anybody in the spirit world on this show, but then I end up doing it anyway. But they're all here. And I have to tell you, they're a little bit on the sober side. They're not making too much noise. I think there's a little bit of shame involved here and some guilt involved here, but they are sorting things out. So try not to worry, because I see them, at least they're all together and they're talking. And I think that they are coming together, and Gregor is doing this. He says they're washing away all of the issues that they had, silly, stupid issues that they had. If this lady could comment.
She is.
Oh, yes. Already? Yes. Go ahead then.
She says, yes. Very old grudges going back many years.
Years and years.
Caused by a stepmother, caused a rift in the family. Absolutely true.
All right. Well, you know, I can tell you that those rifts are being healed even as we speak. So I hope that makes you feel good. You know, be very careful though when you're blaming. You know, I know you mentioned the mother-in-law, and I know, and stepmother, sorry, I know that can be issues for many people. But there comes a point in all of our lives when we become grown-ups, and then we make our own choices, and we're able to see things if we want to, we're able to see things in a much clearer way, in a much calmer way. I always say to my students, I always tell my daughter, people can only do to you what you allow them to do. So at some point when you're a grown-up, you need to start and assess, you know, if you had this person in your life who did split the family, caused issues and so on and so forth, she may have done that, but accept your part in it, because you bought into that. You can't say it when you're young and you have no choice in the matter, but as you get older, you know, think about things, think carefully about, you know, how we let people affect us and how we allow other people to cause issues in our lives. People can only do to you what you allow them to do. That's a grown-up thing. And, you know, and I think we do have an email from someone today, and I'd like Carolyn to read it because it buys into this. And it's about allowing grudges and not, you know, not putting things to right, and then somebody dies and then you're left wondering or wishing that you had put something right. You know, don't, please, you know, all of you, please think carefully before you hold on to your grudges and you hold on to your anger, because life is short and it can end for us at any moment. There are no guarantees that you're going to be able to take a next breath or a breath after that. There are no guarantees. And knowing that life is short, take a look at all those people that you perhaps not speaking to, or you perhaps have a bit of a grudge with, or what have you. Just take a look at those people and assess why those grudges are there. Did you allow that person to get to you when maybe you could have been the bigger person and not allowed them to get to you? I'm just, you know, just saying that there are lots of different scenarios here, but please, you know, there's the old saying, never go to bed in an argument, never waste a breath pursuing an argument, holding on to an argument, holding on to a grudge, because that breath that you're taking, holding on to all of that stuff, might be the last breath you take, or it might be the last breath someone else takes, and you left wishing, if only I had done this or said that. So, you know, think on that. Al, do you want to make a comment on that?
Yeah, just a follow-up question. So, can grudges last through, like, when
in spirit world? Yes, yes. Depends how stubborn you are, but yes. You know, I mean, of course they can. You know, and you know, here's what does not happen. When you die, you don't suddenly become all light and love and wonderful and everything's fine. You hold on to the hurts and the pains and the issues that you had when you were here. Unfortunately, it's easier, believe it or not, whatever pains or issues that you have on this earth are easier to solve here on this earth than they are when you get, you know, when you get there. Because then you have to really have a good look and see how much did you participate in holding on to this grudge, and how much had you been if you had been given somebody the benefit of the doubt, for instance, or if you had been, you know, less judgmental, how much did you contribute to that argument, to that issue, to that whatever that unresolved thing is. And you know, I always say pride always comes before a fall. So just, you know, put your pride aside. And, you know, don't wait for them to be the first to apologize. Be a grown-up. You know, be the person you want to be. Be that nice person you want to be. Be the grown-up. And if you've got an apology coming, you know, if you owe someone an apology, then just apologize. And if, you know, if you're waiting for someone else to apologize because you think they should apologize first, get over yourself. Go apologize anyway. And even if you're not apologizing because you're in the wrong, you can say, always say, I'm so very, very sorry that we have these issues between us. You're not saying you're wrong. You're not saying you're right. You're just saying, I'm sorry that these issues are between us. Can we talk and solve them? Be the first, you know, or hold out the olive branch. It's, you know, it's only hard if you want it to be, but, you know, get a grip and be a grown-up. And, you know, I teach my grandson, you teach you, I'm sure you all try to teach your children the right way to be, the right way to behave. And the right way to be and the right way to behave is to be loving and caring and kind. And above all, to give people the benefit of the doubt. Let's have our next. Oh, you're going to read this email to me, Carolyn, right? Yes. It's a long email, so I'm hoping you chopped it down a bit. I'm sorry we don't have time for great lengthy emails, but we're also very grateful that people do email us and do ask those questions. So off you go, Carolyn.
My friend Gary died of a brain tumor in May, a few weeks before he died. I hadn't been in contact with him for over a year, and I suddenly began to feel the need to get in touch with him. I sent him an email, and right after sending it, I chose to look for an obituary, and immediately it came up. I was stunned. He died, I think, 3 days before I sent the email. I felt terrible that I had lost touch with him and attended his funeral. My question is it possible that I somehow was connecting with him before he died? And is it possible that he somehow urged me to write an email and check for his obituary to let me know he had passed? Thank you, Colleen.
Colleen, that's a great story. I'm so sorry you didn't get to him in time, but I know he hears you, and I know that he's thrilled to bits that, you know, you have made this connection again, because connections aren't just between those of us who are here on this earth plane. Connections happen between those of us who are here on this earth and also those who have moved beyond this earth. Yes, I do think it's very possible that he was connecting with you. You must have had at one point a really nice connection, a really great relationship, and he must have cared for you very much, because I think it was his way, just prodding you, or your angels prodding you, or someone prodding you to say, you know, something's happening here, just get in touch. So yes, I do think you were influenced by him. I do think your angels were trying to say something to you. I think it would have been awful had you missed his funeral. You would have, you know, if you hadn't found out until way later, you wouldn't have been able to participate in his funeral. I think that funerals are important to you. Funerals are actually not important to me while we're on the subject of funerals, because I know that whatever they're carrying in that box, and whatever they're putting in the ground, or whatever they're, you know, burning in the incinerators, is not that person who's there. But at the same time, it is respectful for us to go through the ritual, and I do appreciate why people do that. So I think, you know, you were. I think he was letting you know, and I think that's a wonderful thing. So I think you had a great connection there. Al, let's have another question.
So a couple follow-ups to the whole grudge piece, and kind of, you know, making peace with everyone. Jeanette asks.
Good morning, Jeanette.
But given that there's an ability to interact with the spirit world, even if they died, can you then make it right? Yes, you can.
Yes, you can. And it's simply a question of sending out your thoughts, or, you know, there's a great exercise that I sometimes have my students do. If you have, you know, someone in the spirit world and it's too late to put it right for them, you know, sometimes we need to do something. It's not enough that we send out a prayer. It's not enough that we send out a thought. But, you know, you could write that person a letter and explain how you feel. And then, you know, just as the Egyptians used to do, you can find a river or a lake and put your letter in a bottle, or you can make a little boat and send it off and float it off onto the water and just send it out there into the universe. So you can write a letter and you know, just express how you're feeling. Remember that this person will hear you. They will either they will hear you, or someone else will be able to tell them what is happening and what you did. And so, yes, you can make it. You can absolutely make it right. You can absolutely. But if you're going to make it right, no judgment, no pointing the finger. No, well, if you hadn't done this, I wouldn't have done that. None of that stuff. You've just got to try to be the bigger person, and to give the benefit of the doubt, and to not judge. That's the hardest thing, I think, to not judge, if you can try and do that. Carolyn, another question.
Maggie wrote in.
Good morning, Maggie.
This is our Maggie.
Yes.
Is it possible for your inner being / soul to reach out and comfort someone who has passed that you feel is upset over something that is happening, to soothe them, opposite of them soothing you?
Oh, without a doubt. Yes.
A few days ago, I was sitting out under the stars just trying to find the quiet when I felt those I love. And funnily enough, my ex-in-laws, except my mother-in-law was upset, and I swear I felt an apology. Then I felt myself wrapping her in my arms and telling her it was all right.
Yes.
This stayed with me for a bit because I was not expecting that and thinking it was my imagination.
No, it does happen, and it can happen. Often people in the spirit world, they can become very, very distressed if they see something happening, or they know that something's going on with the family, and they try to get through to us, and perhaps we're not listening the way we should, or, you know, sometimes they feel helpless. So it's important for us to, you know, if we can, to talk to them every day, to say hi to them every day, to acknowledge that they're there. And it's also, I think, important for us, just as we would if they were here on this earth, to send them, you know, our love and put arms around them. You can't do it physically, but you can do it in that, you know, that spiritual way of yours. Send out the energy that you have, and send out your energy and wrap them in your loving, kind and gentle energy, and certainly it will soothe them and it will help them. Because it is difficult sometimes, especially when something awful is going on in the family, or people are arguing and fighting, and someone in the spirit world is looking and becoming very, very distressed about this. And, you know, when I do my consults, I will often have someone in the spirit world so relieved that someone's come for a consultation, because, you know, now they can actually tell you, look, I don't like what you're doing, or please don't hurt so-and-so the way you are, or don't hurt yourself, because they can become distressed if we're hurting ourselves. So yes, sending out love to them and comforting them and helping them is a very important job that we all should be doing. Al.
So we have Tinfoil Hatter.
Okay, then. That probably comes from that great movie with Mel Gibson. I can't remember the name of the movie now, but do you remember the Martians were coming, so they all sat with tinfoil hats on. It was a very funny movie.
Signs? Was it Signs?
Pardon?
Signs, maybe?
Sorry?
Maybe, was it Signs, the movie?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I have no idea, but it could well be. But
yeah,
it was Mel Gibson, and they all sat on the sofa this particular day with tinfoil hats on their heads, whatever they thought that was going to help. Anyway,
this particular person says, I would like to say hello to all my friends and relatives on the other side.
I'm going to call you Tinny. So, yes, Tinny, I'm listening.
Would it help to have a real psychic, they say helping, and they follow up, they can't really see us down here, can they?
Yes, they can really see us down here. When you've heard me, I'm sure some of you will have heard me say this before. When I first realized just how clearly those in the spirit world can see us, I started using bubble bath in my bath water. And I'm not joking. That is a true story, because I felt so vulnerable lying in the bath, you know, in all my glory. Now, I've since realized nobody cares about seeing my naked body, and especially now I'm getting older, nobody wants to see my naked body. But yes, they see everything that we do, and it's very interesting, because when I do give consultations, and those in the spirit world are able to say, oh, you just did this, or I saw you do that, or so on and so forth, and it brings the reality quite right, Carolyn, you hear it all the time. It brings a reality right into your, you know, into your face, so to speak, because they will show you how clearly they can see you. And you don't need a psychic, you don't need anybody to send love to your family, because they will listen to you. And if one of them hears you, they relay it to the others. So you don't need a psychic, you don't need anyone to just send out your love and your blessings, your wishes and your hopes for them. Just do it. Just send it out there. You can think it or you can speak it out loud. It doesn't matter, because it's all energy. And it goes out into the universe. Your thoughts go out into the universe, and they are captured by your loved ones in the spirit world, and they are often healed, and you know, by those loving thoughts and that loving energy. You know, they glow brighter. Their energy becomes more. Just as when we are loved, we glow brighter, and our energy becomes more. I am so well loved. I have to tell you, I'm so well loved by my daughter, and I'm so well loved by my grandson. I'm glowing all the time just from the two of them loving me. Al.
Okay, so Elizabeth.
Good morning, Elizabeth.
Or Elizabeth, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. I was in the pool early evening with my daughter. I was talking about her trusting intuition when an owl landed next to us, stared, left a feather, and flew away.
Oh, yes.
So surreal and a beautiful feeling. So a statement more than a question, but.
That's fantastic. And you do know that owl is bringing you a message from your loved ones. Owls, large birds, wonderful. They're wonderful. They're great messengers, as the Native Americans call them, those tiny winged creatures. I mean, and compared to us, an owl is a tiny winged creature, even though it's a large bird. Those tiny winged creatures come to us and they bring us messages all the time, as I'm sure most of you know. Carolyn, let's have a question. Do we have any comments going on from anybody, by the way? Do we have a question, Carolyn?
I have a question. Dean asks, and Kay agrees.
Good morning, darling. I hope you saw my pesto. I made that especially for you, that video, especially for you.
When we are in the spirit world, can we travel not only to earthly places, but I'd like to see the inside of an atom, see a black hole, see the universe, visit another planet, play in a band, and he wants to take Kay with him. She wants to go.
Well, good luck with that. She will be the best partner for you, I'll tell you. She's so much fun. Yes, you can travel. Yes, you can. Al, questions or comments or anything going on in there in this cyberspace world that I'm not privy to right now?
So is that true for us now, even when we're not in the spirit world? Do we have the ability to travel and see those things?
Oh, yes. And most of us do. When we go to sleep at night, when we go to bed, we go to sleep, most of us will travel. Some of us only travel as far as, maybe a few feet. Some of us travel the universe. But yes, our spirit is able to travel. It's interesting because when I visit hospitals, I go to see patients, and I go to see patients who are, let's say, in a coma. I can see them standing next to the body quite clearly very often, and they'll often tell me they've been traveling here, there, and everywhere. So while we see them lying in their bed doing absolutely nothing at all, apparently doing nothing at all, they're busy exploring the universe and waiting for that moment, either when they are released, when it is their time, or they're waiting for that moment when they can come back to us. But that brings me to another point. When you, some of you out there, I'm sure, have either had this experience or perhaps even having this experience right now, and you have someone who is in a coma or someone is in some sort of comatose state, please don't think that they can't hear you, because they can. Talk to them as if they can hear you, because they can. Treat them as if they know what you're doing with them, to them, because they can hear you. They know what's going on. So be careful around them. Make sure you only talk about positive things and good things. And, please don't think that they're not listening to you, because they are. Carolyn.
We've got a lot of people asking for you to interpret their dreams. So if you just want to let them know that's a little difficult.
I'm not a dream expert. I would love to tell you. I would love to. And if I were wanting to have you come back to watch this show again and again and again, I could sit here and interpret your dreams for you, but I wouldn't really know what I was talking about. And in fact, I'd be talking a whole load of codswallop, because I don't really do that. It's not my thing. So at the risk of losing all of you who want me to interpret your dreams, please don't leave me. But I'm not good at that, and I'll be the first one to tell you that. I think also I will give you this little bit of a clue as far as dreams are concerned. Very often, if you sit down and you think about it and you analyze it, you can actually, don't need someone else to interpret your dreams. You can actually interpret your dreams for yourself. However, listen to your instincts, listen to that inner voice, listen to the voice of your soul as it speaks to you, because the voice of your soul will actually tell you. And listen when you're interpreting or you're trying to figure out what it is that your dreams mean to you, because sometimes it's just a dream of, whatever's going on in the day, and it's all jumbled up in your head and it means nothing. Sometimes it's a dream that someone from the spirit world comes and will help you with something, will tell you something, will speak to you. And sometimes, it's a dream where, you're out there exploring for yourself. So when you're interpreting your dreams or anything during the day, whatever it is that's going on with you, when you're trying to interpret or figure out what's going on, pay attention to that little voice, the voice of your soul, and pay attention to your feelings, because when you get it right, your body, everything about you, your senses, your energy will tell you that it's right. If it feels right, go with it. So pay attention to how you're thinking and feeling. Okay. Yes, you want to?
Michelle asks.
Michelle, good morning.
Basically, does psychic ability skip a generation?
Oh, there's a lot of people who do say that, and there might be some merit to it also. In my case, my grandmother was obviously very psychic. She put herself into a mental hospital because she thought she heard voices. And as I was growing up, my mother would say to me, just like your grandmother. So that's a generational skip right there. However, my father was also very mediumistic, very psychic, very knowing. Didn't do anything with it. I think, it scared him actually. But he was told many times by different people that he could be a medium. So it's sort of, I got it on both sides. I got it from a skipped generation, and I got it then from my father. I think it's difficult. I think it's different with every person. My daughter, Samantha, was very, very knowing as a child, very, very knowing, and still is. If she tells me something is going to be, or especially when we're dealing with people, if she says, I don't like this person, or be careful of that person, I'm paying attention to her because she knows these things, absolutely. She's not like me. She doesn't talk to people who have passed as I do, but she sees her grandfather, my father, she calls him a silly grandpa, she sees him often and has spoken to him often. And my darling boy, as I think I was talking yesterday, is also very, very, very sensitive, very aware. And my daughter was telling me a story of something he doesn't even know he's predicting it. He is just talking to his mum and telling his mum different things. So, but he said something this morning, so we're going to wait and see if that comes about. But it's a lot of fun. But all of you out there, pay attention to your children, because children have this inner knowing, this inner sense, and we need to be able to know and to learn how to listen to our children. And in fact, I'm at some point fairly soon, I'm going to collaborate with a friend of mine who wants me to write a book for grandparents to help their children to be more aware, or to help their parents and their grandparents to become more aware of when we should listen to our children, what should we learn from what our children are saying to us, and is what our children are saying to us real, or is it their imagination? So that's sort of, we're just talking about it at the moment, it's in the works, but because I have a grandchild, and obviously I have a grandchild who's very, very psychic, very sensitive, should I say, very aware, then obviously it's something that does interest me. Al, do you have a question?
Margreta asks.
Good morning, Margreta.
What does transitioning mean exactly, and what and how long does it take in our time?
Well, I mean, it's a subject that sort of, it's too wide a subject, I think, for today. And what exactly does she mean by transitioning? You can transition when you pass from this earth plane to the spirit world. You can transition. It takes literally seconds. You can transition. A medium will transition, especially if you're doing something like rescue work. You can transition. You can, someone else can take over your body and use your body. So there's different interpretations of what kind of transition she's talking about. But if she's talking about the transition between this earth plane and the next world, it will take that. I hope that's helpful, Margareta. Carolyn?
Elena wrote in, and she says,
good morning, Elena.
I write from Turin, Italy.
Oh, nice. Turin.
Yes.
Lovely.
I've read all your books. I have a very important question. I spent many bad years in a situation that I thought would never end. Then a dog came from nowhere. I adopted him and he helped me a lot. Thanks to him, I managed to get out of that bad situation, but then he suddenly died. The people near to me and I think it was not only a dog, but an angel or entity. So many strange things happened and still continues to make itself heard. His name was Fido. And thank you so much for answering me.
Well, you're very welcome, darling. And, you know, I have a Fido. He's not a Fido, he's a Cachorro. But Cachorro was sent to me without a doubt in a very, very difficult time of my life. And a time where I was really struggling with my faith, with all sorts of things. I've written about this particular period in my life, so I won't go into that in any more detail. But Cachorro was my little savior. He still is. He's sort of still out for the count, just so you know, on the sofa with me. Wherever I am, he is too. He was definitely, you know, I don't think I would have managed nearly as well had he not been there for me. And I think that, you know, Gregor was responsible for sending him to me. I think that, you know, our angels in the spirit world, our loved ones in the spirit world, if they can help us, they can give us something that helps us through a time of transition. There's that word again. You know, from a difficult period in our lives to a good period in our lives, that's what they will do. And I think those of you who have pets, who love your pets as I love mine, will agree that they are our angels in disguise. They do come to us and they give us so much loving, so much caring, without any expectation of any return, which I think is the most special thing. Al, do you have a question?
Terry asked a question. It's a personal question.
Terry? Yeah.
It's a personal question. I know your feelings on that when we're in here, but they say, can you tell me what my gifts are? When I was younger, I was more in tune. And that's it. That's the question.
Oh, so that's it. All right. Well, Terry, I can tell you absolutely without a doubt, because Gregor's whispering in my ear. So I think your gifts are towards healing. And that's where you need to put all of your time and your effort and your energy. That's what I think. You know, take it or not. But I think with time, with help from other people, with perseverance, I think you could make a great healer. All right. Carolyn, do you have a question?
We had M who wrote in.
Good morning, M.
Can you describe the difference between a spirit and an entity? When a person crosses over, what determines whether they are a spirit or an entity, and what are their limitations?
I can actually do this for you, I think, because, all right, so we have a soul and we have a spirit. Not just when we pass, but while we're here on this earth, we have a soul and we have a spirit. The soul I liken to, you know, a flower bulb. Really, let's look at the daffodil bulb, because that's what soul science is all about. So I liken the soul to a daffodil bulb. We plant it in the earth. It takes root in the soil, and if we nurture it and we care for it, we give it enough food, we give it enough light, we give it enough energy, we give it enough love, it will grow and it will bloom. All right. So when it blooms, so this is the soul likened to the daffodil bulb. When we feed our soul, when we give light to our soul, when we find enlightenment, in other words, when we're working on our spiritual sense and sensitivities, when we're working to become more spiritual and more aware, simply just a kinder person or a nicer person, that's when we're feeding our soul, and that's when the soul fills with light, and that's when the soul begins to flourish. Okay, so the light and the brightness and the energy that comes from that feeding, in other words, the flower that blooms, the flower that we see that comes from the daffodil bulb, that flower, that light is the spirit of us. It is the spirit of our soul, which is growing and becoming lighter and brighter and clearer the more we grow. So when we pass into the spirit world, our soul and the light of our soul, which is the spirit, the light of our soul continues on. Now, it's just, we use these terms, you know, they are our human terms. We know, we say, oh, saw a spirit. Well, what you're saying, what you're really saying is, I saw the light, I saw the glow, I saw the energy of that soul, that person who in which the soul is encased, in which the soul is housed. So you're seeing the light and the energy of that soul. Did I explain that well enough? I think I did. Did you all understand that? Did you get that? Yes. All right then. So Al, question?
So Maria.
Good morning, Maria.
She asks, how can there possibly be demons? I watch some of these paranormal shows and they speak of demons. What are your thoughts on this, please?
Well, again, this is the second time then I've mentioned the book, which is called Soul Signs, which you can get from us. Email us, rosemary@rosemaryaltea.com. I've forgotten how much it is. It's worth every cent. I have to tell you, it's the most. It's Carolyn. Would you like to just briefly say?
Book, yes.
It's Carolyn's favorite book of all time. It really has explained the soul. It explains the energy of the soul. It explains why different people get on with other people and don't get on with other people. It's an amazing book. But in that book, it also talks about the dark soul. Now, before I started working on soul signs with Grey Eagle, because Grey Eagle is the one who told me all of the stuff that's in this book, and he explained it all in, you'll see when you read the book, in the most minute detail. That, you know, when we're talking about it, when we first started working on it, I thought, you know, I used to say to people, there's a little bit of God in every one of us. Well, I learned differently when I was working on soul signs. And this is the great thing about being a medium and being open and open-minded. I'm learning all the time. You asked me a question today and I might not know the answer to it, but ask me tomorrow and I might know the answer to it because I might have learned something. So we're all evolving and learning all of the time. But so I learned at this particular time that no, there are souls who are not a part of God, and they are not a part of the life of the life that we know and the light that we know, but they are part of our universe. And some of these souls, we call them dark souls, some of these souls do come here on this earth plane for exactly the same reasons that those of us who are part of the light and are of the light come to this earth. They come to learn and they come to grow. The difference is that where those of us who are of the light and of God come to learn and to grow and to be more light and to be more you know, to be more goodness, you know, we come here for that reason. A dark soul will come to learn, to grow, to become more dark, to become more we use the term evil or whatever term you want to use, but they certainly are dark souls, and that there are certain levels of darkness. Some are simply not nice, and some are simply malevolent, and fortunately they are only a sort of a small part of the universe. They're only a small part of this cluster of souls that we are, this cluster of earth souls that we are. They're only a small part of this cluster that we belong to. And so, and I always, for anyone now who's getting a bit nervous about those dark souls, please don't get nervous about it, because I always liken it to this. We who are of the light are many, many more, first of all, than those who are of the dark. And collectively, if we continue to build our light and to grow with our light, if you look at it, we have one room, which is, we have two rooms next to each other and a wall separating, okay? And if we fill one room with light, pure, beautiful, bright light, and the other is a room of dark, when you open the door between the two rooms, dark does not flood the light. Dark cannot beat back the light. Dark cannot, even you know, when it eclipses, it's only going over it. It's not destroying the moon. When we see the, you know, the eclipse of the moon or the eclipse of the sun, it's just like a shadow going over it, but it's not destroying it, because it always comes back and it always is the brightest thing that we know. So when dark enters our lives, as long as we stay light and pure and beautiful, we can beat that darkness, we can push it back, and we can get rid of it. It can only enter us, it can only engulf our lives, it can only if we allow it in, if we allow it to enter in. So don't enter in, don't, just keep it out, and keep yourself as light and as bright and as pure as you possibly can. I think also I might just say that all these shows that you see on the paranormal and all that stuff, we do know, don't we, that most of them are nonsense. You do know that, Red, don't you? You do get it's people just wanting to make money and getting people or getting big audiences, and sometimes the most horrible they can make it, the bigger the audience gets, because it's a little bit like babies. Babies love to be scared, don't they? You know, when you say boo to the baby giggles and laughs, and it's a bit like that. We all like to have that scary moment, but then we move on. But please don't believe everything that you read or hear in that regard, because most of it's simply not.
There's a new one that
not portrayed as it should.
Seen where they try to really make you believe that they're fact checking, where they have a psychic and then they have a retired police officer.
Okay, well,
you know, so they really do try to convince you.
Yeah, we're not going there. Thank you, Carolyn, for that, but we're not going there, actually. We're staying with the light. We've only got a few more minutes, but we do have time. Al, do you have another question?
Yeah, Lily has a very
Morning, Lily.
Cool connection thing. My partner and I have been experiencing weird things, like when we are apart, we think and see the same things. We can be talking about one thing and then it will happen. Same thing with songs and etc.
Fabulous. That's not weird. I thought she said weird things. That's not weird. That's wonderful. That's fantastic. Good for you. Fabulous. You obviously have a real connection. I've had that connection.
She actually said wired. Sorry, I misread it. Wired things. I don't know if she meant weird or wired.
Well, they're not weird. They're not wired necessarily. Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. I'm so pleased for you. Carolyn, a question?
Nope. That was the last
All right. Well,
one.
that's it. So, Al, anything else to say before we close?
Actually, Chris has a question.
Okay, Chris.
You've taught that like energy attracts like energy.
Yes.
When we get on social media and express our dissatisfaction, aren't we just calling more dissatisfaction to ourselves?
Well, yes. I don't understand why people are mean to each other on social media. I do not understand why people feel the necessity to write something that isn't nice about someone else. Of course, we have a president who does it all the time. I don't know why people feel the need to do that. And it's cowardice, quite frankly, because if I had something to say to somebody that wasn't very nice, I wouldn't say it on social media, I can assure you. I'd pick up the phone, I'd say to that person, I need to see you, and I would do it face to face. So if you've got something that you need to resolve, try if you can to do it face to face. Sometimes it's not possible, but cut out the meanness, because it's not necessary. And all it does, as Chris pointed out, it just creates disharmony in the universe. There's no need for anyone to be mean, so cut it out. I think on that note, did you want to say something, Al? I can hear you.
I remember what you said, Gray Eagle said a few weeks ago, that the world just needs more kindness, right?
Gentleness, more kindness. Your world, he tells us, your world needs gentleness and your world needs kindness, more of that. So you can get hold of us on any of the social media stuff. Please don't be upset with me if I don't reply to you, because I'm bombarded, and I love it. I love being bombarded, but I'm only one little person, so you got to just, be nice to me. Don't give me a hard time when I don't reply to you, because I do try. We do reply to all of our emails. So if you need anything from us, email us, rosemary@rosemaryalaltea.com. Don't think that we've forgotten about the online courses. We are trying desperately, right, Al? We're trying desperately to sort it out. If anybody out there is an expert on how to go about this, I'd love for help. So please feel free with that. The book went out 2 days ago. hopefully it's coming back next week, and it will be the final edit. We hope, and then that will go on sale. And remember, I'm going away. There will be on the 12th, which is Thursday morning, there'll be a morning where I will not be live. However, we're going to record that session, and what I'm going to be doing, because I'll be traveling, I'll be on planes or somewhere on planes and things like that. So we're going to record that session, and what I thought I would do is I would I would read some little snippets from the new book. But if you want to ask any questions for the 12th, send them in to us, because I can also answer them as well. So we're going to record. So if you've got any questions for the 12th, don't leave it for the 12th. You know, just let us have those questions now, and we'll make a list of those questions for you. So we'll be here next week live as usual. And in the meantime, until I see you again, thank you all for joining. Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you, Al. A special thanks to my darling Grey Eagle. And you can probably hear Kachuro's now up. He's got a sense of, okay, she's coming, she's getting off that sofa. And he's snuffling and sniffling and all the rest of it. That's going on in the background. So until I see you again next week, please, 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 please have a very, very, and check out the pesto thing. I did that yesterday or the day before yesterday. Yesterday, right, Karen? Yes. Great pesto recipe. And in the meantime, until I see you again, I'm looking for that little arrow. There it is. Please, please, please have a very, very, very blessed day.